Welcome, welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Third Hour of Power. This is Grady of This Mormon Life, and this week I am joined by the multi talented Parker Jacobs. Parker, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. We had some technical difficulties, but I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad to be here because I like stuff.
And I like the stuff that you do, which is why I asked you to join me today. Parker, where's somewhere that someone might know you from if they're not quite sure of that name yet?
Oh, well, I guess my claim to fame right now is the Yo Gabba Gabba. I'm the art director of the hit kids television show Yo Gabba Gabba. And I do other stuff, and I'm involved with the Aquabats. My brother is the front man for the Aquabats. If you know that as a band or a children's television show as well, I'm involved to certain degrees, and I'm mostly behind the scenes guy nowadays, which is fine.
Hanging up the lab coat.
Yeah, yeah, it's in my closet collecting dust.
Well, and one of the reasons I asked Parker as well today is because Parker is now in my parents' ward, and so I get to see him every so often when I go back and visit. So I appreciate you taking time out tonight, Parker.
Yeah, no problem. It's a joy. What I was meant to do.
21. And the Joseph Fielding Smith Manual, which is proclaiming the gospel to the world. And I like in the first section, when it talks about the teachings from the life of Joseph Fielding Smith, and he's talking about a time when he was on his mission and he was in a hospital, and they were really frustrated. It was him and a couple of his companions because they feared that they had smallpox and they were put on quarantine, and they were so frustrated that they couldn't help spread the gospel. They left their families behind, and this was their chance, and they got stuck. And so one of the things that they were doing was they were making the most out of the opportunity and sharing the gospel with the hospital staff and those that they came in contact with, and still kept teaching even though they couldn't teach kind of in the way that they were hoping to.
Mm. Yeah, what I got out of that what was all of his struggle before being imprisoned in the quarantine. You know how he was talking about how he distributed those all those tracts and those pamphlets, and nobody was even reading it until like something happened where the Lord like shh, put him in the hospital. You got smallpox, you know. I thought that was what was really impressive to me. Um, was
Yeah,
that was like the payoff, you know?
yeah, and it's just so neat how things change. Change how we see our circumstances one way, and the Lord is just testing us and kind of seeing, okay, we're going to push you down this path, but now I'm going to change paths, and I want to see what you're going to do sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and where you're going to find success. It was here in Arizona, and our stake president was speaking last night, and he was talking about the alarming statistics behind missionaries that go inactive when they come home. And
Hmm.
one of the things he talked about was how missionaries need to keep sharing the gospel. It's not one of those things where you've served your mission and you've served your time. And he was talking about his daughter who had just returned home from a mission, and that she is all the time talking with people about the church, and trying to share the gospel, and that it's easy for her because it's just something that she does. But that idea that we go on our missions and we can still share the gospel. And
Yeah.
one of the things it talks about here in that first section, it's entitled, "We alone have the fullness of the restored gospel and desire that all people receive the same blessing."
Yeah. I think it is important to always have that mentality of being just an every member missionary. I was fortunate to have had, think about my dad for a good example of being somebody that's always talking about the church all the time. When I was a little kid, we went to go buy a Datsun truck,
Mhm.
and the car dealer was this this was like late 70s. this black guy with the open collar, butterfly collar, with the gold chains around his neck, and he had the afro thing going, and my dad was all just, he wasn't afraid and of talking about the church all the time. He just thought this is the way it was. And the guy on his open collar, he had a gold chain or a gold necklace with a cross on it. And he's like, "Hey, you like Jesus Christ?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I got a book for you. You got to check this out." So he's like, "Sure, you want to buy a car?" kind of a thing. But this guy, he joined the church with his with his whole family. They all converted to the church just by my dad opening his mouth. And why I'm saying it was the 70s, because that was, socially with the blacks and the priesthood kind of a thing. There's kind of a weird stigma there, but my dad didn't care because the church is for everybody, and he didn't. There's nothing to be apologize for. It was just like, hey, go for it. So
yeah, I was a baby, not even born yet when that was all happening, and I can't even fathom the idea, because I think we're so far removed from that now. But being able to speak, to speak, to someone and say, hey, this is what it is, and I think that's what it comes back to, is that the gospel is more than that. It's the idea that it blesses our lives, and whether that family's life has been changed forever. I love in this section here, it says that we have tasted the fruits of the gospel and know they are good, and we desire that all men shall receive the same blessing and the same Spirit that have been poured out so abundantly upon us. It reminds me of Lehi and the tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
Lehi, he gets there and he takes the fruit, and as soon as he tastes it and receives that joy, his first desire is that other people should be able to taste of it also.
Yeah, totally. And that's something that I think as members we kind of lose a lot. We always go, "Oh, I love the church so much. It's blessed my life so much. And if if I didn't have the gospel, I'd be totally lost." But then
I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah,
like
and then when it comes to interacting with other people, we just want people to just kind of like us and accept our weird, peculiar way of the church, and we want to show people how open-minded we are and how accepting we are. But a lot of times we fall short in the like, yeah, well, you know what, this is good for me and it's good for you too, and this will make you happy, and it's delicious to the taste. Come on, take a bite.
Well, and I think that you bring up a good point inadvertently, is the idea of inviting others to do things.
Yeah.
I always hate to say when I was a missionary, but when I was a missionary, the idea that we were taught that people gain a testimony when they make and keep commitments. Ask people to do things. Maybe it's, and hopefully it's too late now, but maybe you invited them to the trunk or treat. Maybe you invited them for family evening. Maybe you just invited them over for cookies. But it's the idea of inviting people to do things that will make their life better. And not to try and sell it. This isn't you're not trying to sell them doTERRA oils. It's the gospel of Jesus Christ, and you want to give them opportunities to feel of that love and that goodness that we feel with the gospel.
There's a weird balancing act there, because we always want to be like, that person's like, "Hey, no, I'm not trying to convert you or anything," but then again, we don't want to, because we don't want to push it on people. Nobody likes stuff when like when you take a flashlight and you shove the light in their eyes. They like it when you point the flashlight to something good. It's really kind of, hey, let me show you what we're doing. But we do have to say, this is the right way to live, and it'll bless your life too. Which is hard to do without coming off, self-righteous or
judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and I think it's so funny too sometimes when they announce things at church to invite people to, like, this is a great non-threatening way to invite your friends, and I'm like, is there a threatening thing we should be inviting people to?
I know.
Come to church or else.
That would be kind of funny, imagining what would be a threatening way to invite our friends to church.
Yeah.
Let's get a bus and like the Mormon paddy wagon, and we'll just like throw our friends in it. And
that's like the word activity where we all like do faith walks on broken glass.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a threatening activity.
That's a little threatening. Yeah.
Well, it goes down here, and we'll skip down to section 3,
Okay.
and it's about how the Lord needs missionaries. I think about the primary song when I say that, but
Hmm.
one of the things that I like here, and it talks about how we hope to see a day when every worthy, qualified young Latter-day Saint man will have the privilege of going forth on the Lord's errand to stand as a witness of the truth in the nations of the earth. And I always think it's a funny thing, is people have different ideas now, or maybe more abstract ideas of the gospel. I was listening to this conversation about whether or not we are commanded to go on missions, or our young men are
Hmm.
commanded to go on missions. And Parker, you've got
Wait.
now getting ready to be that age, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I broke up just a little bit. I've gotten something.
Sure.
I've got a. Yeah, I have a son.
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
yeah. Who's getting ready to be a mission age?
Yeah. I do. I have my stepson Zane. He's going to be getting there. He's turning 17. Oh my gosh, that blows my mind. He's turning 17 this month. So we've got like a year before mission age. That is incredible. I haven't even thought about it like that. Since they've lowered the age of accepting missionaries um, full time, things are changing, and I can see how the youth, they are more ready than definitely than I was at that point in my life. And I don't know if you've noticed this. Have you noticed that the curriculum with seminary has changed as well? Like now, seminary is missionary prep class because
Oh yeah,
that's all you got. And now you have to. When I was a kid, seminary was showing up in your pajamas and eating donuts, and if you show up for 70% of the time, you pass. But now you have to memorize uh, scriptures in order to pass. Attendance is just part of it. You have to really. It's something serious that you have to do to
yeah. Well,
pass.
and there's even assessments. I won't say exams, but there's assessments that,
Yeah,
in a way, to really see if you are understanding, or at least the principles that are being taught. And some people are all up in arms about it, but I think that it's important that we challenge and we give our youth opportunities to really find out if these things are true. And I think that the days of, well, at least he's going, those are gone by.
yeah.
Then they can't make it with just showing up anymore. That was good for the 80s and the 90s, but now the world is a lot worse than it was back then, and we need valiant servants who are prepared.
Yeah, I think of the group of missionaries I went out with, and I love them, but their level of preparation, and this isn't a judgment to them, because my level of preparation wasn't that good. But I don't think half those guys would have even made it out there in the field, because they were like, "What are we doing? What am I doing here? Why am I here?" I heard so much of that as a missionary with other missionaries. Were like they were there because their parents sent them, and
Yeah.
or they were there, they barely made it by for worthiness issues, and now that the bar has been raised, more is expected, and I know missionaries they've got different challenges now. I think socially, I think kids nowadays aren't as social with each other, which is a good thing
No.
and a bad thing. Um, that's the new challenge, I think. But as far as worthiness is concerned, and personal righteousness, these kids today, this generation, is incredible because they're asked to do so much more.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome. I think it's a great thing, that we expect so much out of them, and hopefully it helps to pull those who, maybe who would have just sat by before, maybe, drives them to some action.
Yeah.
One of the things it says here as it goes on, as we preach the gospel, is to do it simply. And I love this new idea that Elder Bednar has kind of put out, and you've kind of alluded to it too. The idea that social interaction has changed. There isn't a lot of face-to-face interaction as it used to be, and whether that's a good thing, bad thing, we all have opinions. But
Hmm.
the idea that's just the reality of the world that we live in right
Yeah.
now, and that we need to have ways to communicate with people. And I love the idea of sharing goodness. Not so much as sharing the gospel, although I think that's part of it, but just sharing goodness, sharing good experiences on the internet, and saying, "Hey, you know what? My wife made all of our Halloween costumes. Here we are at the trick or treat," and saying, "This my wife, she really hard and did something, and here's the result."
Okay, well, wait. Grady?
Yep.
I think I lost you just for a second there. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm having some phone problems. But okay. Yeah. Where were we at?
Is there anything you want to add to this lesson?
No, I think one thing is that this is something that obviously is like the most important thing. Isn't that what he says at the very end? I don't know if we're skipping ahead or if you're
Yeah,
wrapping it up.
we're wrapping it up. We're at the end. That's where we are at.
Okay, well he said something that President Smith said just at the very end. I remember him saying something about, ultimately this is our number one deal. This is our most important thing, is to preach the gospel. After we have it, we've got to share it. And time is short. Repent ye, for the kingdom is at hand. And when it all melts away, there's so much fear, and there's so much uh, you know we're cautious of being accepted ourselves as humans, or just as individuals, as members of the church. And I think when it all boils down, when it all melts down, uh, and we have our friends that see the truth, I'm sure they'll be like, "What is your deal? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you why didn't you tell me how true this is and how much I needed this for my life?" So there's a lot weighing on our shoulders as far as responsibility, as far as being missionaries.
Yeah, amen to that. And I would just add a challenge for those of you in class, that if you are more than let's say more than 3 months home from your mission, this lesson on missionary work, to not say anything about your mission, to just focus on missionary work that you've done since you've been home. And if you don't have any yet, to go and create some experiences and share that, because that's what this lesson's about. For the most part, it's not about reminiscing about your old mission days. It's about making your mission days right now.
Yeah, good point. Ouch.
So now I got to go create some, because I don't know how many I have either.
Right.
But Parker, where can people find more of what you do on the internet?
Well, I guess I have a Facebook page, The Art of Parker Jacobs. You can find me there. I also have Goon Holler, which is my next project I'm working on. I'm doing a series of children's books. That's GOONHOLLER, Goon Holler. And I have my next kids book is coming out. We're doing a book signing on November 22nd at Barnes and Noble, with my brother Christian and I, and we're going to be,
And that's in
making
Huntington
friends.
Beach, right?
Yeah, in Huntington Beach, in Bella Terra, and I don't know. I guess that's my deal.
That's awesome. I'm glad we're going to miss it. We're going to be there the following weekend, but best of luck to you guys while you're there. And we'll have links to these things in the show notes. So if you go by this Week in Mormons, who are our benefactors, they'll have these links. I'll also put the link in there. We did a review of Parker's first book, the Goon Holler Guidebook, and it's hilarious. It's got recipes for things you can do with your kids, songs, all kinds of things that kind of introduce you to this world that Parker's created all out of his head. And it's a good time. But we want to wish you guys a happy Sabbath, so that you can prepare for your lesson this week. Go ahead and visit our benefactors, like I said, This Week in Mormons. Also visit us on the internet. My website is www.this-mormon-life.com. We're also both on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I think that This Week in Mormons is on Pinterest. So just search for that, or go to our sites and you can find links to all that stuff. And on behalf of Parker, my name is Grady. And until next time, we wish you all a fond adieu.
All right. Thank you so much, Grady.